Hello, everybody. I hope you had an incredible weekend, and I'm really grateful to have you here today. Before we get started, I want to first let you know that if you're watching this anywhere else besides YouTube, I would love it very much if you could go to this link below and hit youtube.com/allaccesslive with Kevin Rankin. Once you hit it and you hit the subscribe button and then the bell to be reminded, you'll not only be notified when we go live every single show, but you can also go back through and you can look at the archives of the other shows we have. There are 177 of them out there. So you can find everything from MTV VJs like Downtown Julie Brown and Alan Hunter and uh, Ricky Rackman to wonderful music celebrities like Rudy Sarzo from Ozzy Osbourne's band and Tawny Katane, all those people you saw from the MTV videos. Almost as sexy as my next guest. But before we start and talk about him, I want to thank my buddies at 5 Star Guitars. 5 Star is based in Beaverton, Oregon, and they've been supportive of this show from the very start. They are in Oregon, so there's no sales tax. So if you're a guitarist and you're nowhere near Oregon and you're paying a bunch of money for sales tax, hit the link below. Go to 5starguitars.com/allaccesslive. There's a promo code that you can use when you check out called AllAccess15. If you hit that link right there, use the promo code, you're going to save 15% on top of the avoidance of sales tax. So you're going to save a bunch of money and you can become an incredible guitarist like my other wonderful supporter, Jennifer Batten. Jennifer has a Guitar Cloud Symposium that has been now 5 sessions deep. She offers this symposium at www.guitarcloudsymposium.com. You can go there and get incredible lessons and tutorials, workshops, seminars, tricks, tips, and they also have great giveaways. Jennifer had Steve Lukather on as a special guest on Sunday. Last episodes, she had Dweezil Zappa, and before that, she had Steve Vai. So sign up at guitarcloudsymposium.com, and you can get amazing opportunities to get famous and precise on your playing, just like her. So now, before we get started, I also want to thank Audix Microphones. They're based in Oregon, and they supply this incredible microphone, these headphones. And since they're in Oregon, there's no sales tax either. So you can go to audixusa.com and get these great mics. Now, speaking of mics, this next guest was I would say he's one of the pioneers in getting music back in the hands of people during this pandemic. He's been in this Northwest for quite a while. He's quite a character. Maybe we'll get into some of his background. But before we do, I should tell you, he's got an organization called Northwest Talent Spotlight that has been a streaming source to bring you live music. And when everybody was yearning and dying for live music during the pandemic, this guy actually brought it to you. So I'm grateful to have him here. I was grateful to be a part of his show about 3 weeks ago. We'll talk about that and everything else that this man does. This is my friend, Bobby Pallotta. How are you doing, Bobby?
Hey, Kevin. Kevin, this is an honor, buddy.
Hey, man.
It's an honor.
One of the things I love, man, is that you've got a little purple and magenta going on in the background.
I'm trying to, a video guy would look at my light went out too, and
no,
yeah, there's something going on there. So
I love it, man. No, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't really set you up as a video guy, but besides, putting together Northwest Talent Spotlight, you also have done a lot of video and photography in all sorts of realms. My dear friend Dan Pred, I talked to him prior to me coming on your show, and after you worked a little bit with Jason Feldman and Hairfest.
Yep.
And I said, oh yeah, so Bobby P Media. And he goes, wait a minute, you know Bobby? And I said, well, I'm going to be working with him. He said, that dude is the greatest, man. Tell him
Dan Pred is the man. Dan Pred is the man.
I love that guy. Yeah, but he says the same thing about you, so it's kind of nice to have that validation.
He's got talent upon talent,
and he's got energy, right?
Yes.
Not only is he an amazing drummer, but the guy's got hyperactive energy. I'm gonna put my 5-star hat on. Pardon me for saying. All right, there we go. That's better.
Put my hat on.
Oh, right. Is that
better?
Bobby P Media? No, you look great, man. Let's talk a little bit, just really quick. A few weeks ago, I had the honor of coming on your show, and I'd seen the production, but I could not believe how professional and supportive your team was there. Man, you had your son working in there,
Yep.
and there were probably a dozen people in that crew. Is that about
Yeah.
right?
Andrea, who was Andy's my partner. So me and Andy started this show back in March. Andrea is Andy's daughter. I mean, she's worth $1 million to us. I mean, she's really taken our show from where it was up to, like, calling people and, putting the bands together, booking them on the show. So she's a rock star. And then we've had a new guy, Marcus Bennett. He's not on social media because he's too good for us. And Gray, good kid. He just left the show to go to another, to make money, because we're still not making much money. This is basically a forum to keep music on the road.
Right. You could see that in the way that you put the production together. And you mentioned Gray taking off.
Yeah.
That guy had the most amazing sense of customer service. He was so courteous and polite. Walking up saying, "Mr. Rankin, where would you like your monitors, please?" And I said, "All right, Mr.
No, he was great, and we always make fun of him, like when the bands come in, because he'll walk in and he'll say, "Hi, I'm Gray, and I'll be your cameraman today." And I always say, people, just tell him we don't care.
Man, honestly, it's a little bit, for bands and performers that might be a little nervous to be on camera. I think it's a great way to kind of put them at ease.
Yep.
I would think, you guys all really made people feel comfortable, but the facility, you would never believe what you guys make that facility into, right? For being in this small dance studio, it turns into this big concert hall,
Yeah. Well, that comes from, big shout out to Scott and Annie at Riverside Performing Arts. I mean, when they're my clients, I do a lot of their videos for dance recitals. And, when this whole pandemic came down, I said, man, there's got to be something we can do for music. And that's when me and Andy, decided, hey, let's start this show,
Andy Madsen, man. Yeah. You got another like Northwest sort of icon, right? Andy's been around for a long time.
Andy has been around, and he started with Carrie Ray. Carrie Ray was the owner of the show.
Okay.
And he gave me the torch to take it, and me and Andy discussed it for days, almost a year. It's like, oh, let's do this. We'll do it at Billy Blues. I mean, who knows,
Right.
And we just never got to do it. And as soon as the pandemic hit, I actually got a call from Rich Morris from Sound Guy Productions. I got a shout out. We're not together anymore. We had to break up as partners because we just couldn't work together. But professionally, he's a good guy. He's the guy that called us and said, hey, we should start something. And I said, well, Carrie gave us the Northwest Talent Spotlight with Andy. Let's put it together. And we did, and, I give him a shout out because he was the start of this whole thing. And, from there, when he left, Andrea came in. So the daughter, Andy's daughter, and she's been a rock star. She's a rock star. She knows how to be nice. She knows how to be nasty when it's time, but she's great. She's what we needed.
Yeah.
And Andy, of course, I mean, I don't think Andy gets enough credit for this show, because most people they thank me, Bobby P Media, because that's the company that's doing this. But Andy is Northwest Talent Spotlight. There's no doubt.
Yeah, like he's more than the host, but he's got the banter, he's got a little heckle,
Yeah.
And
he tries to shout me out, and it's like, oh, he's the octopus. I'm like, no, Andy is the guy. I mean, he has been when we were doing stories on KPTV and they came in from Channel 6 they always left him out, and we give him all the footage, and they always left Andy out, thinking that, like, what are you thinking? Even though they did a great job. I mean, both these TV stations did a great job, but it was like, always leave Andy out, but Andy's Northwest Talent Spotlight. Without Andy, I'd run away, because he really is. I mean,
there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, honestly, right? That's the thing is when you mentioned that other people had been involved before, and they passed the torch,
Yep.
You recognize now, after doing enough shows, that so much more work goes into it than people might think. And
All day.
yeah, I mean,
It's the day before. It's putting the intros together, putting the graphics together, maintaining the cameras, getting audio done.
mm-hmm.
And without and the bands. I mean, I'm gonna, if I can, I'm gonna shout out the most important people that came to us when there was the so-called breakup of our partnerships, and then me and Andy took it over. Well, we lost all the audio gear. Rich supplied us with audio gear and lighting, some of the lighting, and again, I'm grateful for the guy because and we had nothing, and then we were like, what are we going to do? And then Beat Patrol and the Southern Sons, the guys Patrick, the drummer, and Kelly, the guitar player for Beat Patrol. It was my birthday, and Kelly's like, "Oh, you were going to get on the show," and I was like, "Kelly, we don't have any. We can't do the show anymore. We don't have anything, and we couldn't afford it. I mean, we're out of work." And he said, "Are you going to be at the office?" Next day, he's going to be at the office. I said, "Well, I'm in Longview now. I'll be back about 3:00." And he shows up with this new van that he bought because he's a retired police officer.
Okay.
And I thank him for his service. And he opens the back of his van, and it's loaded with all the audio gear that you see in our studio.
Unbelievable.
Stands. Man. What do you need? Microphones. What do you need?
Wow.
We needed monitors. We needed, and then the Southern Sons donated money for the lighting. And we put the whole lighting together in there. And then between those guys and, again, Scott and Annie from Riverside Performing Arts, I mean, we wouldn't have this.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know if you believe in karma, man, but you were putting this stuff out there before. You put out a lot of positivity, and, your ultimate goal was to provide this service to people. I mean, you were not asking to make a living off this thing.
No.
As you certainly found out, so much time, effort, blood, sweat, tears go into that without actually getting any financial return back. But the real fulfilling part is having this opportunity to bring the music. You watch the shows become successful. You're helping the bands out, because when the bands are up there playing, this is the first time they've gotten to play in a year or more, right? And so then they're playing in front of an audience that they wouldn't normally play in front of.
Right.
That's another thing too, is that some of these bands, they may be coming through on tour. They might be a local band that plays in clubs. If they are playing clubs and they get an opportunity through your vehicle to provide music to not only your streaming people, but after you rebroadcast and you're on your YouTube channel, they're in front of a lot of different people. So you deserve a lot of credit, for introducing them to an audience. And I think for me, I love the show when I was playing some stuff and recording with Mike Skill from Romantics, as you know.
Right.
Mike got approached from Spin Magazine to do this live broadcast where they were featuring some bands that I think they had like a little featurette. So they would take 3 or 4 bands and do this Spin showcase, Spin Magazine live video showcase, and they needed a place to shoot it. And I had seen the other 2 bands that were performing, and it looked like they were set up, in a basement somewhere.
Yeah.
Spin Magazine. I mean, you gotta look professional, right?
You gotta look good. Yeah.
And Mike is, he's world class, man. Not only is he professional,
super nice.
Yeah, and he's a great songwriter, and he's got a lot of creativity. And I just know that he called you, and you guys had that thing dialed up in 2 days. You were set up, all the fun, the behind the scenes stuff was figured out. You worked with him in a very cordial way when he was adamant about how he wanted to set up.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Mike watches this show a lot. And so, Mike, if you're there, I love you. And you were opinionated that night, right?
Yeah.
So I know that you wanted things your way, which you deserve, man. But I was really impressed, Bobby, with the way that you handled something that other people would have gone off the rails with, right? And actually what Mike was doing was to downscale your amazing production some, right? I mean, if you haven't watched this yet, but when you go out and you check out his Northwest Talent Spotlight show, he has this small dance studio looking like this big rock club, right? Big drum riser, lights everywhere, cameras everywhere, multiple cameras, camera right there above the drum set. And And the lights are as big as you'd see in any good rock venue. And
Yeah.
Mike came in and he said, "Hey man, no, we don't want any of that, right? I want CBGB's 1977. I want
Simple.
white lights. Get rid of the drum riser. I want everybody on the floor, just like we just rolled in from a dirty bus or a dirty van, right? And you did it, man. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was in no time flat. You had that room completely reorganized, and instead of saying, "Oh, come on, man," I mean, we have this. You never ever justified why you had the room that way. You never argued with him, and I was just I was really impressed, man. So
Yeah. I was adding stuff, and he's like, "No, no, no, I
Yep,
don't want that."
that's right.
Okay, that's easy for me. But
Well,
he kept apologizing, and of course, Mike, if you're listening, you know the deal. He kept apologizing. Mike, there's one thing that I don't settle for is if the band tells me it's okay.
yeah,
I always tell the bands it's not okay.
I
I
love it.
want you guys to be happy, and I want you guys to sound like you're on stage.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't settle for just okay.
you
You
nailed
know,
it.
so, and I love the bands. I love people. I've had my journey growing up and
Let's talk
doing
about it.
wrong things, right things. I mean,
Are you cool to rap about some of that journey?
oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, tell me how you
um,
got here.
well, I started out. I grew up in Brooklyn.
There's the accent.
We lived in somewhat of a, we lived in a mafia territory because my dad, and my mom took us out of there. I played a lot of hockey back in the day. And when I was in Brooklyn, it was all hockey and no. Well, I'm missing a couple of teeth because we didn't believe in helmets.
It was
And
just the hockey that did that. Were you a brawler?
I loved hockey. Hockey was my life. I mean,
Okay.
I skipped school, hide behind a refrigerator in my basement. So when my mother went to work, I could get out and put on the skates and go play hockey. So it was long story short, I started to the point where I was playing for the New York Stock Exchange when I was 15 years old, and then almost went to the Checkers, which is the Rangers farm team. And then I got hurt.
Oh
And
shoot.
I just, that's when I just stayed with music. I was a drummer. I used to play in the basement. And the cool thing was playing drums in the basement of New York. And, my friend Carmine, and he would play some stuff, and we'd keep the window open. And we'd have this fan club in the window, outside in an alleyway in Brooklyn.
Hard to make money that way, but
But I loved music. I mean, I played drums. I loved it, and so I built with that. My mom took us away, and she moved us to Long Island to get us away from that.
from family
And
stuff.
from there, I built this. I don't know how many recording studios I had one little one in my bedroom. I had one in a boiler room. And if I showed you pictures someday, you'd laugh because it was two radios put together side by side,
Oh
and
my.
I'd have an amplifier. So I would record. I would play the tape of the guitar track. Then the drummer would go in. He'd be in another room with one microphone and let the speaker record the drums into the
Oh
other.
yeah. Oh,
I mean,
what year was that?
I have pictures, and one day I'm going to share them with you. We're going to sit down. I'm going to show you.
I'd love to see that. What year was that, Bobby?
Oh boy, oh God, I was 80,
Oh,
80, maybe the
okay.
early 80s.
Okay. So thinking about that, mom took you out of Brooklyn to Long Island, you said?
Yeah,
Okay. And so if that was that era, I mean, that's right around Godfather era, right?
I was the Godfather era, and that's when I was hanging out with Dee Snider, and I did sound in the Roxy Music Hall, which was the big Long Island club. And
No kidding,
I got to
man.
meet all the these are big. Warrant came in. I did all their sound for Warrant,
Oh yeah, but
and I loved it.
pre-warrant. Let's
I
go
loved
back
it.
to
But
the
that was the day.
Yeah.
That was the time we had the old analog system, the big speakers, and you love to go see original music. It was all originals.
Yeah. Oh,
That's what. So
that area too, man. I mean, I know that.
yeah,
A lot of
the
guests.
good rats.
A lot of the guests that I've had have talked about their turning point. And musicians talked about their turning point being 1964, Beatles on
Yep.
Ed Sullivan Show.
Yep.
But
Yep.
after that, right, there were different points in American music history, right, where you could pinpoint where some things changed.
Hmm.
You can see it in Liverpool, you can see it, you know, in London, you can see it in L.A., right? You got the Sunset
Right.
Strip era where that thing
Right.
happened, but prior to the Sunset Strip era was this thing that was happening all the way from uh, let's see, I'm trying to think of where Dramarama is always playing. I'll think about it, but
In New York,
yeah, just like on the just out in
the bitter end, the
oh my goodness, this was their place. And
Stevie GB's.
Springsteen used to play out there a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
oh,
in Long Island.
hang on a sec.
So there
Let's
was Max's Kansas City. There was,
as soon as I think of it,
oh,
you'll know the place I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, the anyway, it was in Jersey, maybe that's what I'm thinking
Oh,
about.
that could
But
be. Yep.
anyway, you know, but that area at that era, the bands that were playing, I guess up in New York. I mean, Eddie Martinez has been on the show a lot. Carmen
Right.
Rojas was on the show. We talked about, you know, they grew up in the Bronx, right? And
Oh, yeah.
they talked about playing around the Stevie Wonder. Like Eddie went in for a Stevie Wonder audition when he was just a
Yeah.
kid, and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and it was dangerous and dark. It was nothing glossy about it. It was blue collar. You know, I mean, we look at like
That's where I grew up.
you talk about D. Snyder, man. He came into all the glam, but when those
Yeah.
guys first
Oh,
started
yeah.
out, right, they were like a gang, right?
Oh,
And
of course, with the big hair and
yeah.
being in the studios with him. I mean, it was fun.
So okay, so when you went to Long Island, your mom said, you know, your mom wanted you out of like the whole family scene. Was there violence around where
Yeah,
you
it's
were
just
at?
Brooklyn was changing, and it
Okay.
was, it was kind of a, it's kind of a mafia area, and I, and yeah,
But mom saw that this was not where she wanted the kid
yeah,
growing up.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I got to let it go, but mom was pretty brutal to me. I mean, I was physically and mentally, beat. So,
Oh,
um,
so sticking around might not have been a bad thing back.
well, yeah. I mean, we moved out there. I lived with her, and I was, it just, I don't even want to go into it because I'm trying to surrender
Yeah.
all the stuff that happened to me, and I know some of the stuff that I do in general in my own life right now, and I'm very open as a man. As I went through a lot of punishment, and I
Yeah.
also grew up in Brooklyn and the Bronx. I beat people up. I got beatings. I mean, the way you survive was to do what you had to do. And it's funny when I moved here, it's like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Long Island, that's where I really got into the music scene. Me and my wife built our first house in '94.
Okay.
We got married in '92. And
Wow.
in
Okay.
'94 we bought our first house.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, when we got married in '92, we went to Jamaica, and our room number was 92.
Oh, nice.
When we
That
went,
was an accident?
no, it's just that's where it was.
Yeah.
And then when we bought our first house in '94, the address was 94.
Oh man.
So it was weird. But when we built our first house, I had the house built with 13-foot ceilings, and that was a no-go in New York, in Long Island. It was like 13-foot ceilings in a basement.
Yeah.
But I had my vision of building my studio in the basement. I worked in New York City with, a lot of big people, and that's how I learned how to do audio. Is recording, is working with Bruce Turgeson from Jim Croce. I used to watch him with Jim Croce
Oh
and
my god.
the Village People, and I learned a lot. And
Wow.
then I built this. I built this studio in the basement, and I have it. I don't know if you can even see it if I put it up.
I'll make you
This
bigger.
was
Hold on.
my.
Let's
Oh,
see. Oh wow, look at that. That's
yeah, I don't know
beautiful.
if it's,
Okay.
but I built this studio, and I had all these bands in. I mean, that was the era. I mean, it was rock, and then long story short, it must have been like 98 is when really computers started to come in. So every Tom, Dick, and Harry had a studio. So it was like, I had the Studio reel to reels. I had the 16-track MS-16s. I had all the, you had the Neve console, the Trident boards, and it's like it's gone,
Yeah. Right.
and some guy wanted to buy the studio and the house and
Oh,
just stole the whole thing.
oh
And then
my God.
I moved to Florida. We moved to Florida. We didn't like, well, it's not like we didn't like it. We actually lived with my mother-in-law and it wasn't easy.
I'm
So
sure.
we
Yeah.
so we moved back to New York, and of course on the way back, the first thing I did was get a pizza. But
Yeah.
then when I moved back to New York, it was like, family stuff, and it's like I don't want to live here. I want to do something different. And my brother lives here in
Oh, really?
Richfield, so I moved
Okay.
here back in 2005,
Nice. Yeah.
and and it was different, the way I grew up, and I made a lot of enemies. I mean, it's just the way I was. I said, don't take me for what I am. It's just the way I grew up. I'm very forward. Because if you weren't forward and you weren't tough, you get your head handed to you where I grew up.
Okay. So
Um,
you mentioned enemies, like when you came out here in 2004.
yeah, it
Okay.
was difficult
Yeah.
dealing with, like, everything here was nice and slow, and it's like, okay, but I'm driving on the freeway here, and somebody gives me the finger. I don't know what I'm doing. They gave me the finger. I chased him home. I chased him to his driveway, and the guy was like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" I was like, "You put up that finger again." But where I come from,
Bobby Road Rage.
where I come from, if you put your finger out the window, you'll get a chain through it. I mean,
Okay.
people are very, very respectful in New York when it comes to stuff like that.
Okay.
But anyway, I found it a little hard to get used to being out here, and the people are very nice, and I had to kind of like figure out what I wanted to do. I got into the sports industry. I was filming sports the whole time and having fun. But I tell you, in the last couple of years, I just didn't like, I just like, I'm bored of this stuff. And so, going through COVID, but like I said, coming out here, I got more into video. I got more into, I'm probably, I chase the squirrel a lot, so I'm sorry, but like I said, when I moved out here, I got a job doing low voltage wiring, just have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly I got back into video, and I got a job with the Blazers, and, and
Nice.
all this stuff. And little by little, I was getting pushed out. I was getting pushed out because I was angry. But I realized that I was being pushed out for a reason. And when you get taken from something else opens, but long story short, like I said, when COVID hit, it was like, I'm doing something I absolutely love. And I wake up and I eat, sleep, and drink this stuff. I go in the studio, I'm cleaning bathrooms, and, because I'm doing something now, Kevin, I love doing. And people's like, why don't you play again? It's like, I love playing, but I really enjoy making people look good.
Yeah.
That's my goal, is to make people look good, especially in music, and making the moves. And like I said, I went from audio to video, and then, right before me and Rich Morris, separated as partners, he's the one that threw me in the audio booth. He goes, we need a real audio guy, and it's like we couldn't find anybody that was consistent, but I will tell you, the best guy we had, and I will always invite him in, is Vic Cerisio.
Oh, okay.
Vic is our man. I mean, I don't know if you know Vic very well.
Just on Facebook.
The most amazing musician ever. I mean, the guy could play anything. He's just this big lovable bear that you just want to always hug, And he came in, and it was like, he did the sound, and it was great. And then his band got on, and he was like, "Wow, who's going to do sound for us?" And I'm like, that's when Rich threw me in the booth and said, "Okay, you got to work sound tonight." And then Vic came out, and he's like, wow. And that's when I knew I had my roots back from New York, and my studio and recording, and I love it. I love being in the booth. I love being back to the audio.
I'm curious about your transition, man, because going from sound engineer, into video here. You mentioned wearing a lot of hats, but you also talked about when you first came out, you led with the chin a little bit, right? I mean, you mentioned having, making enemies because you had that East Coast mentality.
Yep.
And that's, it's a common thing, I think, for, people, not just from like the East Coast. I mean, really, Portland's a strange place. So when you show up here and there's a little bit of a click to get into, it's a strange thing to, show up without having any contacts or anybody that you can,
Yep.
sort of piggyback on. So when you got out here and you started working through those things, the Blazers and getting these other sports opportunities, and then through music, how did you rectify and maybe resolve some of those relationships, or have you been able to?
My brother, my
Okay.
brother Lou, my brother Lou was always my dad. He raised me because when my mom took us away from Brooklyn, that also left my father behind because they got divorced and it was nasty.
Okay.
But my brother raised me, and when he brought me out here, he said, I'll take care of you. And he taught me the ropes. He taught me what to do, what to not do. And of course, Bob don't listen to that because I'm fresh out of the Bronx in Brooklyn, or it's hard.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard because I'm used to people telling me what I'm doing wrong. And then I would do that out here. I'd be like, what are you doing? I mean, you should be doing. I was really hardcore. And I
Yeah.
still am to a point, but you never lose it. But knowing where you, knowing where, for somebody to tell me something is awesome because that means respect. That means
Mm.
you're telling me, Kevin, you don't like me because of this.
Mm.
That means respect. That means me being able to tell you, hey, Kevin, your hat's funny looking.
Yeah.
That means we care about you. If we don't care about you, we don't say a word. So
Mm.
out here, it's almost opposite with people not telling you like it is.
Right.
And it's hard for me. I want to know where I stand because that helps you grow.
Do you ask for it? Yeah.
Sometimes I just don't. I just say, don't take me from where I come from, but
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just
I mean,
used to,
the other way around. Like if you're working with somebody and you're kind of getting the cold vibe, do you ever say, "Hey, man, things working out all right?" Because my tendency is to speak my mind.
yeah,
Don't hold back. If you got something,
yeah,
without saying you got something to say, right? But
yeah, yeah.
it's a
Well,
tough.
that was you talking to me,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Give me your best Pesci. How about I?
Yeah, it's different. Like when you walk, I'm going to go backtrack real quick because I brought this guy, my friend Alex. I brought him to Brooklyn one day. We flew there. There was a lady here that flew us to New York to do how rap started. And
Oh
the reason why
wow.
he brought me in is because I grew up in the Bronx. In Brooklyn. I know how it started. I even know the park it started in. So here he is. He's in the back seat. He's fresh. He's like this big gorilla guy. He's great. This guy Alex is great. Super nice guy. But we're driving down the street and he's got his camera out the window, and I'm like, I said, that's you just signed your death certificate.
Really?
And he's like, what do you mean? He goes, I do that in Portland. I'm like, well, not here. Because if
Wow.
something goes down here and there's a camera sticking out, there is no
Uh,
such thing as police.
I gotcha. Yeah.
New York took care of them.
Yeah.
When somebody messed with your family, you took care of that. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
the way it is. Um, and I still have that mentality, but it's different. It's just different, And like I
Yeah.
said, when I came out here to try to tell people, you know, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough
You
to
know,
acclimate anywhere. I mean, Portland is not the same place that it was, or I mean, I
no,
know you're north of Portland, but it's not the same place it was 10 years ago.
sad. It's sad, Kevin.
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought about that too, and then I think it's just different because every city is kind of going through a lot of that. I'm
yeah,
from Montana originally. I just went back to my hometown about 3 weeks ago,
yeah.
and it's not the same place. I mean, there are a lot more people than there were 10 years ago
Oh,
on
yeah.
the planet,
Yep, yep.
and Portland has a lot to offer, and
Yeah,
the region has a lot to offer. So it's gonna bring people in, and I see people banter all the time about whether it's a political decision or people's choices to get them there. I think, if you take a step back and you just look at what's going on in the rest of the world, it kind of makes sense.
yep,
And if you're like me, man, I'm an emotional dude. I know that you too, even though you've got this Brooklyn side. I saw a soft side of Bobby Pilato, the
yep.
empath, which was
Abs-
awesome.
Absolutely,
But I got hung up on,
absolutely.
on stuff I couldn't control, right? I mean, I was wanting to fix the homeless situation.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, I wanted to control my friends, drug addictions and
yeah,
whatever. Like I
yeah.
can't
Forget
control
it.
any of that stuff, man. I mean,
Yeah,
I can contribute to, make some things better. And that's what I've seen you do, man. I mean, Northwest Talent Spotlight filled a void for people that you and I both know, man, you're a drummer, you're a musician. You get that if you're not playing, if you're not doing the stuff that fulfills you, there's an identity crisis, right?
Yep.
I mean, there
Oh yeah.
really is. And you, as a creative guy, saw that there was a need to fill that void. I didn't see you being opportunistic, like, oh, I'm going to go out and make a buck off this. That wasn't it. You saw that people need this.
Yeah.
I need it. And so if you can be, somewhat self-serving by starting that and working the show the way that you have, but
Yeah.
also contributing to the benefit of people, I think it's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And we get hassled for it. People think we're making money off this thing. We
yeah.
got a guy that's hassling us right now. He doesn't leave me alone. Just jealous. But it's like, because Andrea said, well, you're in front now. I mean, you're a public figure. It's like, this is not about me. It may seem that way. Maybe it's my way. I don't know. But this is about the musicians, man. Like I said, I like making people look good. I like the camera angle. I like making people look good. It's just, I don't know. I have a really soft part of me and I have a really hard part of me. So I think that gets in the way sometimes. And like I said, but the show, we did the show for 2 reasons, really. I did it for my sanity, because I love music. Maybe that's the third one, is loving music. Putting bands on a platform where they could be seen by all. So when clubs open up, these club owners, like, the Garages or Billy Blues, they're looking at this show, and not because we're the best. They're looking at it to say, I like this band. I'm going to book these guys. I don't know how many bands have gotten weddings out of this show. But there's times, we did this and we give the band, the money, the tips. The tips are nothing now, because the things are opened up. We do the shows on Fridays and Saturdays. I mean, I get it. We're not even asking you for tips. But then, the thing is these bands get a really good demo out of this. And I guess it just makes me happy, And like you said before, guys come into the studio that we don't even know. And we have Marcus in. He's a great kid. He's our director. And you met Marcus.
Yeah.
He's our video director. He's 20 years old and he's a spitfire.
He's like 20.
But
wow.
He said, "Oh, these guys they're asking for a lot." And I said, "Well, just remember, this is the industry. They don't know you. Let them come in, let them play, and watch at the end of as soon as the show is over, when we say, okay, that's a wrap, you're going to see guys take their guitars off with a smile, because they just played. They just got people chiming in. Andy's going, hey, Kevin on the drums, your mom just said hi, That's what makes people, that's what I needed. I want to just make people happy. And, like I said, I've had my challenges. I've definitely had my challenges in life and with people. And I'm not going to lie about that. Some people love you, some people hate you, and some people just think, it's just a jealousy thing. But I'm just doing this to keep myself busy,
The people that you're having challenges with that have a different perspective on the show, I can tell you from experience.
Well, it's only one. It's only one
but
guy.
yeah, but
we don't need to mention that.
No, but I'll tell you. I mean, with my show, it's the same thing, right? I talk about my sponsors; they've provided equipment, right? I've had equipment. I just got to the point with YouTube where I've got enough partnership where I'm starting to monetize. I've made a total of $2.70 right now. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And but it's obviously not why I'm doing it either. But I will tell you, the people that have that perspective, it's ignorance. It's jealousy, but through ignorance, because they just don't know, right? So people, I worked for a nonprofit with Oregon Music Hall of Fame for a long time. Their whole focus was to get music scholarship. Well, not the whole focus. The main reason I got involved, and their primary focus, was to honor people's legacy who have contributed musically through, either living in Oregon or they're from Oregon. But their annual induction ceremony had an auction, and the money that went to that all went to these music scholarships. There was another guy in town who was putting together a local music ceremony, and he met me for lunch to talk about Oregon Music Hall of Fame and how we could partner together. And then we had a cordial lunch, and then we left, and he started posting that the Oregon Music Hall of Fame was a front to load everybody's pockets, and all this money was going, and nobody on that organization for like 20 years has made a dime. Terry Courier is he was the director who found this whole thing, and
Right.
that guy has given his life to music,
Right.
and it crushed me. I got really angry
Yeah.
at that person's ignorance,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wanted to get defensive, and I realized that it's tough. I mean, if you get defensive, that's because maybe you feel like there's some validity in what those people
Right.
are saying,
Right.
and there isn't, right? I mean, when people have an opinion about what Northwest Talent Spotlight is, and they're in a professional environment where they could post about it on social media or through the industry, they should ask you. You know, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing, because reputation is so important
Right.
in this business. And you talked about alienating some people when you first came here. That's a lot of work to do to regain people's confidence and respect and trust if maybe things went south. And so I think, I mean, when I look at the amount of energy that you put into making things just the best they can be. I almost said perfect, but there is no perfect.
No.
When you, because I mean, there's tech issues and whatever else, right? I mean, there's just stuff that comes up, but you've gone above and beyond, and then you've got your own family to manage as well. And I would have bet it's difficult for them because they've got to share this other really exorbitant passion that you've got, putting all that time in. How does that affect your family at home? I know your daughter is really active in motorcycles, and your wife is supportive.
It doesn't really affect us. I mean, my wife really supports what I do. She super supports what I do. There's no problems there. You know what I mean?
Cool. That's great, man.
The show is, she knows is I do what I love, but we're not getting paid here,
right?
And that's what hurts. It's like, where's the paycheck? And then we get a little paycheck, and we'll get paid like the bands pay us now, $300 or $500, but look what you're getting.
Right.
You're getting great audio, and you're getting 2 hours of video. But it doesn't really hurt that. But I do want to backtrack. I just want to rewind for a couple of seconds here when you said, putting this show together, how hard it is. Well, I don't believe there's no I in team. And, like I said, without Andy, I'm nobody. I'm nobody when it comes to Andy does days of research on you to make sure he's got questions. Andrea constantly on the phone. Marcus constantly doing something, making the switcher do something that we never thought it can happen. Gray, running cameras and cleaning bathrooms, and there is, this is a team effort, and I it's not me, and I appreciate that and how much work goes into it, but I could never, if I had to do this alone, forget it.
Right.
Forget it. I'm not even a third of this program. I mean, there's people that work really hard to put this show on, and that's Andy, Andrea, Marcus, and Gray. No, he'll be with us. He'll come in and out because he's on a couple of big jobs, but
sure,
there is no.
It's great that you honor those folks, because when you come in there, people would never realize how involved that team is until you go in and watch the show.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you talked about, well, you're up front. That's why you're getting, the brunt of the, maybe that from this one person that's critiquing. But
you have no idea, Kevin.
Oh, I might actually, but I saw that there's different platforms that we're on right now between Facebook and Twitch and YouTube. Yeah. I just popped over to one of the Facebook feeds here. I see Andrea is gladly there, chiming in, saying it's a labor of love for sure, and she's saying hi. Paul Lazinski says,
hi, Andrea. Like I said, we're nothing without Andrea. Andrea has been our glue, and when I'm ready to dive, when I was with Rich before we broke up, he used to talk me off the cliff. He's a great guy. Talk me off a cliff. Now Andrea talks me off the cliff because it gets tiring. We're not going to lie. This show is tiring. We love what we're doing, but the stuff that goes into it, I don't think people realize. And I love it. I love doing it.
what is the craziest thing that's happened in the taping that you've done this? Like
in the taping?
Yeah, just like
Oh,
when you're shooting this stuff, what is the nuttiest thing that's happened?
Oh my gosh. I don't know, Andrea, if you're there, type in because well, I guess the craziest thing I'm gonna put the Hellcats on the spot with Mike Branch and the guys is when we were doing the show, we didn't cover the fire bell, the fire system.
Yeah.
And they were playing, and right in the middle of the gig, everything went off, man. Things were flashing. And it was flashing like crazy. And we're like, what do we do now? And then I made a video right after that of the fire trucks coming in, and there was no fire trucks. But, the fire truck was up outside, and it's like, no, we're just jamming. But you open the door to the club, to the studio, and there's so much haze in there because it's cool that when you opened it up, it was like that movie. I forgot what the movie is with, what was it, Sean Penn or Sean, when they opened up the van. And all the smoke came out.
Dazed and confused, right?
Yeah, they just fell out.
Oh my God.
We told the guy, told the fire department, yeah, we're just having a show here.
Oh my God, man.
But and that fireman became a fan of the show, and he was watching almost every show.
It's good that
the
sprinklers didn't go off on the gear, right?
No, it was just like, we're blowing smoke like crazy. And at the time, Rich was doing all the lighting, and it looked great, but
yeah, I'm sure.
What do we do now?
On YouTube?
Huh?
Is that on YouTube somewhere?
It is. It is. If you go to YouTube, go to our channel, Northwest Talent Spotlight, it's there somewhere in the beginning where, Mike they're running out, and I filmed them. We did a whole skit of, it's like, let's get out of here. And then of course Andy gets to the door, and he's like, where are you guys going?
Oh God. That guy is so funny, man. Just as you're starting to roll on the Mike Skill episode that we did, he went into his best impersonation of one character up in Washington that is not a big fan of me, and so he had me laughing the entire time we were taping, and then kept it up. He's got a good sense of humor.
Andy is Northwest Talent Spotlight. Andy's Northwest Talent Spotlight. And I know that, like I said, you don't think about it because life is flying by right now, and it's like people thanking, oh, thank you, Bobby P Media, thank you, Bobby P. And I said, man, don't forget, Andy is the show.
Yeah. Well,
I just push buttons and run cameras. But Andy makes the show. Andy to me is an icon. Andy to me, I wish he was my brother, which he is in life. But him and I never have conflicts because I'm running around like a lunatic, and he's the one that's calming me down and rubbing my shoulders. And he's like, "Calm down, everything will be okay." And then Andrea has to deal with me. It's like dealing with a child. And I'm not going to lie. Like I said, when it comes to production, I mean, I'm everywhere because I want it to be right. I want it to be. You think you want it to be perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Right. But you do have the right personality and drive for it.
But this show is not me. I'm this in this show.
Okay. We get your humility. I appreciate your humility. I got to be humbled right now because I can't believe it. I was saying Dazed and Confused. No, but it was Fast Times. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's
Paul
what
Lazinski got it.
Open the door.
Oh my God. Yeah. I actually had Mike Damone. I had Bob Romanis on my show early on, and we've had a couple of Fast Times characters on the show, which has been nice. But I'm embarrassed that I didn't remember that. So thank you, Paul. And Andrea agrees with you. She said, that the Hellcats was a good one. She said having to improv live when a band might have some salty language always keeps Andy on his toes. Yeah.
Andrea wasn't with us when that happened, but that it's still a great thing. But like I said, I don't want to take credit for the show. I mean, I'm going to give the biggest credit would be to Rich Morris.
Okay.
Rich Morris is the guy that came and said, let's do a show. And then me and Andy was like, oh, Northwest Talent Spotlight. So, and then, like I said, then Andrea came in. I mean, just put the puzzle together. And you know how hard it is it's almost like a band. And if you don't get along, but you also got to help each other.
Having the vision.
And Andrea and Andy are the guys that talk me off the cliff. when I'm going through, rough times, like what's going on now, which I'm not going to mention, but
Okay.
they help me. They're there for me. But sometimes I get so carried away with, like my own mind, and it's not a lie. I mean, I got ADHD. I'm depressed. I did some stupid stuff. I'm angry. I'm sad. And I want to be open to that. But like I said, if it wasn't for, like I said again, if it wasn't for Marcus, Andrea, Andy, and Gray, I mean, I'd be nothing. I'd be nothing, Kevin. Nothing.
You want to rap about that for a sec, Bobby?
Um, in what way? I mean, I could put tears in my eyes. I mean, like I said, Andrea's like a sister to me. She came in and she was like, I would just want to help, but
Yeah.
he's got to get paid too. And I think the biggest thing, Kevin, is that when we do a show and you get $20 in tips, man, I almost feel like I'm letting everybody down.
Yeah.
And I really feel bad for myself. And it's like, how are we, and I just now turned it over to Andrea. I said, let the tips go to you. This way she can, give it out to where we got to go, and most of the bands, of course, will tell me, we want you to keep the tips. I mean, what you guys are doing.
Okay. Well,
and it's great, but
what I was wanting you to expand on when I was asking if you want to rap about it, you took on something that was almost seeming insurmountable, right? I mean, the task that you have right there is destined to fail if you don't have a team, for sure. I mean, you give all this credit to the team, which you can see that it's a team effort. It's not all you, but I'm talking to you about it because I know that vision that you talked about, everybody on the team has to have the same vision, the same outcome.
Yep.
You've painted that vision in there. You've said, I don't want this show to come off as okay. I want this show to put a smile on the musician's face. I want people out there that are appreciating it to feel like they got a show worth tipping, right? And so, I think you and I have a lot in common, right? And, personality-wise, you feel some guilt, some regret that you can't take care of everybody, right? And that almost crushed me this last year, And like I said, I was the fixer guy. I wanted to solve all these things.
Yep.
And depression. I think you and I both talked about before. It's in our family, right? There's a predisposition. There's the ADHD thing. I'm ADD in spades, right? We could talk about squirrels all day long, man. But aside from have these folks talk you out the ledge, like where is Bobby getting his payback for the show? I mean, I know that it feels fulfilling to you when you have a job well done, but okay, let me ask you this. What would take the show to the next level?
Well, Andrea's probably listening still. And, the next level is something that got me in trouble with this person. So that's a dirty word. So I'm just going to put it out there. But we could talk about that off air. But
sure, no.
The next level, which is not a brand, it's getting sponsors.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pay the crew what they're worth, but the most important thing and where this show is getting the bands paid.
Yeah.
Knowing that I could say, hey, Kevin, you bring your band in, you guys are going to get $500. It's like, whoa, yeah, $500 plus a video.
Mm-hmm.
That's a deal.
Right.
Yeah. That's what we really want, Kevin. That's what we really want is if we could get a sponsor to pay us, where we could go out and do commercials for them and whatever. That's the next level for this show is getting the bands paid. This is what this whole show format was about, was getting the bands to play and be able to give them something. And there's a lot of bands out there, a lot of musicians that have day jobs, where, a guy like you play for a living. This is your deal. You're a pro. I mean, you play for a living, but
I got you fooled.
Now you're not making any money. So how cool would it be to have a platform where guys get paid to play on a live stream?
Yeah.
And in the beginning, like I said, it was great. The tips were great and stuff like that. But then it people get tired. I get it. I get it.
Well, part of it too, it's not complacency or being tired as much as, we're 15 months into a pandemic, right? Or 14 months, whatever. And at the beginning, I know when you first started this, I knew that people were excited. They thought, oh my gosh, somebody out there is bringing music, live music. And so
Hmm.
we want to support it. They'll throw $5 out on a PayPal link or $10 or whatever.
Right.
And I saw that happening for a lot of self-starters, like individual musicians that were going to do their own show. And they put
Hmm.
their PayPal link up. And I would bet if you talk to every solo musician that's out there doing this right now, they tell you, yeah, PayPal donations, they dried up, and I think
Yep.
it's, you know, it has nothing to do with the quality of your show because I've seen your quality go, like that trajectory for your show is fantastic.
Thank
I
you.
think, I mean, and that's not me kissing your ass, man. I'm telling you, you can tell that the work is there. And when you get down on yourself and you're thinking, man, all this effort and I'm not seeing the return, as you and I both know, man, when you've got a passionate project like this where it does benefit people, it's gonna feel insurmountable. It's gonna feel overwhelming, and it some days it's gonna like break you. But
Yeah.
but
It
if you
broke me, Kevin.
if you know what would take you to the next level, then perhaps that team of yours can locate another person whose specialty is connecting sponsors. I
Yeah.
wouldn't I wouldn't rely on one because then you're dependent on them and they fall through. But if you had a variety, you had 4 or 5 corporate sponsors that could benefit from not only advertising on your show but also benefit from your skills, benefit from the association of having brought
Yeah.
culture to the area. Um, I would love to see that. I really would. I think,
Appreciate it.
and for all sorts of reasons, the one thing that I see missing right now, not in your show, in our community, is the connection. COVID did a lot of it, but even prior to that, people got stuck behind a screen. People would rather sit home, Netflix, and chill instead of going out to see live music. For a
Right.
while, that was
Right.
happening.
Right.
And I know that you and Jason Fellman have talked a lot about that, about how
Mhm.
to inspire people to get out in the community to go out and see live music. Um, Netflix and chill is fine, right? But we
Right.
we
Right.
can't, if we're gonna develop a cultured community where we support the arts and we support music and we get something vibrant and fulfilling, we need to get out there and see people, interact with people. I mean, if you're like me, dude, I'm a hugger, right? So I
Mhm.
need touch and I need
Right.
to have face
Right.
to face,
Yep.
not this kind of face to face, although this is great, but it's not a substitute. And
No,
so
it's not
so
life.
and your show is not necessarily a substitute for live music. It is the best that somebody could get, especially when they're unable to get out right now. I could totally see you doing some of this in a live environment. I know that's a lot of production, but you
Mm.
could downscale the production, but bring your shows anywhere where you partner with one of the venues because I mean, hopefully, we're going to keep as many of the venues as we can. The Save Our
Yeah.
Stages program and all those
Yep.
that worked on
Yep.
keeping the venues together. I'd love to see those venues get an opportunity to have your expertise too, because you put
Mm.
together an amazing looking and sounding piece, and you could do that at any of these venues and scale. The reputation of some of these places. You mentioned the garages, right? The garages has
Yep.
done a whole renovation. They've done all new sound. They've done all new
Yep.
lights, but they're still new to the community, and a lot of people and bands might not know what they've done. But you've
Right.
done some shooting out there,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so that kind of thing is a value that you bring to the community, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it, man. I
No, I
think,
appreciate it. Like I said,
yeah,
our team, without the rest of them, without Andy, I mean, I'm nobody without Andy. So
it's so
you
great,
know,
man. That
he's like I said, him and his daughter have talked me off the cliff.
yeah,
And I could get emotional, and I'm a man. I don't really care, but you know,
dude. I've
they
cried.
they have saved me. You know, and they
Uh,
know how they know how. Like I said, when you get a guy out there that's jealous and he's just poking at you and poking at you and poking at you, and you just want to do. In my situation where I come from, if I poke back, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. Well, let me
Um,
ask you this, right?
you know,
Who's in your industry? Who's the biggest guy out there doing kind of what you're doing?
Well, I don't know. OBS. I
Oh,
mean,
okay. So do you think the uh, production manager, the creative director at OBS gives a shit about what one person out there says, right?
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My
Exactly.
son, I've talked about my son to you a little bit. He's a huge, amazing drummer, but he's gotten into the hip hop world. When he first started singing, he was young. He was 14, 15, and he was related to
Hmm.
Justin Bieber, right? And
Yep.
he didn't care what people thought. Everybody hated Justin Bieber, and they were making fun of him about it. And I was proud of him for not engaging. He said, "I'm just gonna like him for myself. I don't care." And then as he got more into the hip hop thing, the harder stuff, uh, people were picking at him. Right? He's this
Yep.
ginger
Yep.
from the burbs, right? And it didn't fit the mold of the rap thing. And I said, back when you were into Bieber and you didn't care what anybody thought, I said, do you think Bieber cared what anybody says about his stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
of course, he was the punching bag for a lot of people, right?
Well, look at the
Because
presidents.
right. But yeah, man, I think if you look at the perspective, you're no different than the creative director at
Yeah.
OBS or anything. So if that one person's poking, they have no impact on your life whatsoever or on your future or what you're able to
Yeah.
do. And I think it's great that you've got perspective from folks
Yeah.
there that get it. The guy that wears his heart on his sleeve like you do, man, we feel a lot more than sometimes we should,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with what you're doing. And don't let it derail that, man, because you have definitely brought something so special to the area.
I
It's
appreciate that, Kevin.
it's a big deal. I keep
Bring
bouncing
it
back and
back to me and Andy.
okay, well, you know what?
You know,
Okay. Oh, Paul Lazinski. This is interesting. Okay, so he says, I think the show is a new thing. The best thing is to play live for people outside of Portland. It's like they're watching
yeah,
Netflix, but it's actually live bands from the Northwest Talent
yeah,
Spotlight.
yeah. We would love to go Netflix on this whole thing or something like that. But
Who says you couldn't eventually, right?
I'm the first to admit that I am not a business guy. I know very little about business.
Sure.
But
That's why you have a team.
Andrea comes in, she does the business part of it. I'm able to do the technical part and make it happen. Andy's able to do what he's got to do and make it happen.
The whole is greater than the sum of its
It's
parts.
hard. But don't try to do it on your own because
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
the worst business guy ever. And what? So, but
that's
like I said, there's jealousy out there, but when you poke me enough, I'm a pretty big bear. I'm a pretty
yeah.
big bear that likes to just sit down and have a banana or something. But you poke me enough, it's just that's it. And you don't want to poke a bear that much.
Yeah.
And this one was just poking, but I'm not going to go there because Andrea's going to yell at me.
Yeah. Well, I
I'm
bet
going to go to the positive mode and
we,
know that what we're doing, we love what we're doing, and I always say we.
yeah,
Um,
you make a
we
difference.
we love what we do, and at the end of the night or in the beginning, we'll get what we got to get, and this was huge. Like I said, big shout out to to RPA, the guys from Riverside, Annie and Scott, and one of the biggest. I will give her a shout out because I am on her product, so I am gonna give Lori Massey a big shout out. She gave me an office here. And she's the one that said, "Hey, in the beginning of this, why don't you use the office to do your music show?" And it's like, well, if we got to break this place down every night, this ain't going to be easy.
Yeah.
And she was the one, but she supplied like the T-bombs and the protein shakes for the guys, and
That's great.
so Laurie and Dawn here at All About Nutrition, and I put them out there because they're helping me lose weight. I'm down 14 pounds, and they're really on me right now. I have to lose weight because I have Graves' disease, which is hypothyroidism.
Okay.
And when I get upset, what just happened with this, I'm not going to call him a gentleman. I start shaking again, and it's not because I'm scared.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm not allowed to get stressed out because I can die.
Now let's take the stress off for a second. All right. I'm going to have you take off your Northwest Talent Spotlight hat for a sec, Bobby Pallotta.
This ain't well.
No,
That's
the metaphorical hat, right? I want you to take a deep breath. I'm gonna have some fun with you. I don't know if you've seen on the show sometimes. I put you on the spot.
Okay.
I'd love to know what guilty pleasures, somebody that knows Bobby, what would they be surprised to find out about you?
Uh, I don't know. I like to walk around nude. I don't know.
Well, I can
No.
give you some examples, right?
No.
There are a couple of days where guys that I never would have thought were into ABBA and disco. And
Yeah.
like Dave Ellison from Megadeth talked about how he said, we never want to admit, but we had to say we were like disco because that's how you
Yeah.
get the chicks, right?
Yeah.
But we had an ABBA stretch. We had The Bachelor. There were 2 or 3 days where guests, male and female, both were saying, they have this guilty pleasure of sitting down
Yeah.
and watching The Bachelor every night.
Yeah.
So whether it's musical or or
Yeah.
food, if you're a closet Reese's Pieces guy or whatever, what's a guilty pleasure that somebody might be surprised to find out about Bob?
Well, when I was, in Brooklyn, I was a disco skater. I was a disco dancer on
Right?
skates.
Wow.
On the side of being guy on the field on the when I'm practicing, I do the rolls, and it's funny because Riverside Performing Arts, that gave us the room,
Yeah.
one of their teachers, Josh, he goes, I want to do you know anything about roll? Yeah, I know going on this. So, I mean, even though if I put on roller skates now, I'd probably fall on my butt. That's what I did, and I was giving him pointers on making sure that the roller skates have the bumpers and make sure they have the crypto wheels, because you want to be able to, So that's my thing, and when I go home at night, my biggest thing is I'll go home and disco will be playing on Alexa. My wife will be dancing, and I'm like, And anytime that we feel stressed out, I always tell Alexa, and it just brings us back, because I was in the days of the filming for, Saturday night. That's where we lived. We lived under the L in New York, and that's where that show took place. So we used to watch them, and but
Studio 54.
yeah, that was the biggest thing, and the disco and wearing the white shoes with the white pants, and we used to call them cockroach killers because they were pointy, and every time there was a cockroach in the corner, we used to nail it.
Oh my God. I want to see. That's what I want to see. I want to see pictures of you on skates, and I want to see pictures of you with the cockroach killers. So
Never happened. And all the pictures from my childhood were lost in a move. When we moved from Brooklyn to Long Island, all the boxes with the pictures and some of the Christmas gear that my mom had, she used to have all the statues.
Yeah.
They were lost. They were gone.
Somebody out there has something. Somebody
had them, but it's all the stuff with my long hair, and I was a bodybuilder.
Oh, really?
Did a lot of bodybuilding, and my friend Carmine and Louie, of course, Brooklyn, Carmine, Luigi. We used to hang out with Lou Ferrigno because he worked out in the same gym. And
oh, what? You worked out with the Hulk?
Yeah, well, Lou Ferrigno, R&J Health Studios in Brooklyn. You can look it up online.
Okay.
And Kevin, I swear to you, I still have his shirt that has the R&J. People make fun of me. It's like, you ever going to fit in that again? It's like, no, it's got the R&J with the cutoff sleeves. And when he was doing the filming for Pump and Iron, he threw me the shirt because I was friends with his brother, Matty.
Okay.
So, but we grew up with them. They lived right around the corner from us. So
amazing, man.
But we had good times. And I'm glad I grew up in the era I did with the music and everything else. But
well, I think you look at the molding of character that we have now, right? And what brought us
here. Did I freeze?
I lost you for a second. Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, my back.
Yeah, your internet connection's it's really, really low, and so yeah, it does look like your face is frozen, but that's okay. We're just picturing you with long hair. Yeah, Keith Parker said you had hair.
I wonder on our internet.
It looks like your internet dropped really to zero. So, but it's okay because I was.
That's good.
You know what I was going to tell you, man. I know that family is a really big thing for you. And a lot of times at the end of my shows, I talk about legacy, and I look at the legacy that you've sort of brought to the area just in terms of bringing value to live music and what you've done for the community. It's obviously something that's really important to you.
Family's my number one. That's why I get so defensive when something happens like this. because when you even go to the point of taking food off my family's table, that's what's going to make the bear come out,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and and I'm not gonna hurt you, but I mean, but if somebody hurts your kid in front of you, there's no way you're going to sit back and say, whoopee do.
Yeah, yeah, we're having a
You
different
know,
kind of
you,
conversation.
you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
There you go.
So, but when it comes to my family, Kevin, all in seriousness, I mean, they're probably the reason why, you know, they're everything to me because I didn't have a childhood. I had a very reckless childhood. I had a very, my mom beat the crap out of me, and I'm honest. I mean, it was bad physically,
Yeah.
mentally, and having my kids now, like where I go out to work with my son. I mean, me and him, he's got his power washing and carpet business, and I get to go with him and be there. And today I was working in the office, so he was working on this roof. I went over there, I bought him lunch. And then when it comes to my daughter, my daughter is a really good motocross racer, but she's
Really good.
non-feared. I mean, she's like me. She doesn't have that much fear.
Oh, God.
And we go camping together with her on the motorcycle. On the line with her, and I kiss her helmet, and she's my girl. And
Yeah.
we do things together as a family. I think about all the times that I could have made a lot of money, and I was like, but I'd rather be home, Kevin.
Yeah.
I'd rather be home. When I go home and I sit on my chair, and my daughter always will say to me, like even now, when I'll go in her room and I'll be like some nut job, she goes, "Dad, why are you so happy when you come home?" I said, "Because my family is home. You're home, you're safe, and you're okay, and you're healthy." I said, "That makes me happy."
That's a beautiful
And
thing, man.
they've seen the good and the ugly with me when it comes to depression.
Yeah.
So they've seen stuff that they probably will never forget, but they also know that I'm there for them. I'll die for them. And
Do they understand?
that's not a threat. I will die for my family.
Yeah.
And
Do they understand the condition? They understand depression enough to know?
yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. My wife's been through it since we got married. I mean, I have a lot of baggage from that childhood of being, and I didn't have a family that was supportive. I have two brothers that are worth a lot of money. And then my brother out here, he's into the arts like I am. And, we enjoyed life instead of making all the big money like people make. We enjoy what we did, but I was always told I would never be anything. And what are you going to be in video? Are you going to play drums all your life? Or are you going to, it's like, well, yeah, maybe, where are you going to go with that? So,
Paul Lazinski made a comment earlier on in the chat about how, success is the best.
I love Paul.
He's amazing. Yeah, he really is. But he mentioned that success is the best revenge. And that's one thing. It sounds to me, Bobby, having gotten to know you, in a deeper way, outside of this show. When I came up and I did the show with you and we talked a lot about what you're all about. I'm looking forward to the Bobby that gets to sort of unburden yourself from some of that stuff in the past. I my divorce a few years ago kind of came as this manifestation of my ex-wife's burden too.
Right.
She never got help with her depression, and well, her depression manifested over time, but it was other stuff. And I recognized I did the same thing, right? I had stuff that was repressed that I had no clue about.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for people that are close to me. And I'm grateful for the opportunity for therapy. But what I've recognized, this program that I'm working in, this dialectical behavior therapy, it's pretty amazing, man. There are these components of emotion regulation and interpersonal communication and sort of like crisis management, coping mechanisms, and ways to undo, because everybody has a story, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have sordid past that they've allowed them to become a victim of what happened. And, and I think that's maybe why you feel the weight of this, of somebody that might critique you or, and I will say that while I am sad that damage happened to you early on, I think it's made you probably a much more attentive parent and husband, which if there's a silver lining to it all, it's that it made you, it helps you recognize how important it is to be there with your family.
Yeah.
And
Family's everything.
I,
I always go and, I go God, family, me, it's, yeah, my wife is the one that saved my life. I mean, I'm not, there's been times of that struggle. She's physically saved my life, physically, and we've talked about that. My wife is my angel. If you don't believe in angels, you just look at my wife, and she's the angel. She's the angel that was put here on the earth to protect me. And I can't even tell you how much patience she has, with the kids and everything else. And when my kids get a little crazy with her, and they want to, how it is in 19, 20.
Yeah, I do.
I explode. I explode. That's your mother. And if you guys don't understand what a really good mother is, you better sit down and take a good look. Because if you grew up like I grew up, you might be thinking different. When I couldn't go out and play because I had to, mop floors and wash the rugs with a brush. Yeah, your mother is everything to us, and if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be here, Kevin. I'll be honest with you.
Well,
I wouldn't be here.
Well, bless your wife then for us, because I'm glad you're here, and I'm grateful, to get to know more about Bobby P.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to be on your show, Kevin. I just, I feel honored. You and I met at Hairfest, and thanks to Jason and Murray and ever since then, you and I, we knocked it off right there. And I always loved the way you played, and, you get your heads going, and I just love the way you play. So
I appreciate that, man. I'm excited to get to watch you play. I've not got to see you play drums yet, but I do feel that,
I'll do a video.
We're kindred spirits, man. And I'm grateful for all that you do. I'm glad that you're humble, but I know that a big part of this is the vision that you impart upon your crew with Northwest Talent Spotlight.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're watching this and you haven't yet checked out the show, the link is down there, northwesttalentspotlight.org. They've got a channel on YouTube that you can go check out. Hit them up on Facebook so that when you follow that channel, you'll be notified when they have the shows coming up. And I really, man, Bobby P, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kevin.
I got another fun drummer on tomorrow. Adrian Ost, another Vancouverite.
Oh yeah. I know Adrian. I've heard of Adrian. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Adrian moved away to go play with Powerman 5000.
Okay.
Work with a lot of those bands around the 2000s in L.A. And he's back.
We got to get him on the show with some of those big bands. Is what we got to do.
He's man. Well, he's camped out in his forested home outside Battleground right now, and he's pretty happy to be back here. So he'll be here tomorrow. Cool. We'll talk all about it. And I got some fun shows coming up. I'm excited. I don't know if you're a Dolly Parton fan, but her sister's on next week, and she's well,
that was the other thing I wanted to do, is make sure we get some of your video clips, or if it's okay for me to download them off of YouTube, so we can put you in as a sponsor.
Anything you need, buddy.
Anything and Andrea, if you're listening, I forget. But I appreciate you, Kevin, and you appearing in my studio on that drum riser was an absolute honor.
Thank you. Or the lack of drum riser, right?
No,
the absence of a drum riser.
That's right. You were on the floor. It's like, come on, put Kevin on the riser.
No, you know what, man? I love being right there in the thick of it all, man. And I do see that Kenny Davis is out here too. So another wonderful drummer, man.
Kenny Davis is he's a brother from another mother. I mean, him and I have. I always remember Kenny as when I was taking pictures, when I would go out to the clubs and take pictures of the band, he'd always give me those looks. And it was just like that look of, it's just funny looks. It's, and Kenny's a great drummer, and human. And I just feel, like I said, I feel for people. Like during COVID, there's been a lot of animosity and a lot of anger and a lot of things posted and a lot of things, and there's no, it's hard, Kevin. It's hard right now, but in general, Kenny, I got Kevin Kenny on my mind.
Okay, I'm glad to be in his conversation.
Kenny's one of those drummers that he's a show drummer. He's like you. He's a pro, but he's not work. That's work, and I feel But if I can get Kenny on our show, then I know that I've gotten everybody I need.
There you go.
You know, we have Brian Foxworth, and I mean, we have great drummers, Jerry Jackways, and
oh yeah.
I mean, all the musicians. I mean, I can't even like pick them and say, oh, you were the best.
Yeah, I can't
But
even. I'm
we
not
had
even the same.
such fun.
Yeah,
We had such fun. You know?
Man, Lazinski's show was incredible too, man.
Oh man, David
Kendall, man. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing he can't do, and he's been on several times, right? He's been on them with the Hellcats, right?
Yeah,
and,
yep, he's been with Hellcats, and you know, it's just a lot of people, you know. And I truly want to like to play again, but I'm starting to get into bass more and have my son play drums.
Oh, nice.
I really like the bottom end.
Yeah,
you know? People that could play a bass, I look up to them. You know?
Man, when you get a good rhythm section,
man, drums and bass, that's all you need, you know. And then after that, everything is candy, you know.
That's the truth.
But I appreciate you, Kevin. I really, you know, I appreciate the things you've done for me and looked out for me on, and you know where that comes from. And you know, you're a genuine guy, you know.
As are you, my friend. I'm back at you. I'm really, I'm glad to see you. Can't wait to see what's the next show that Northwest Talent Spotlight has.
We might be doing Johnny Wheels at the garages.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then, Ebenezer. I forget. I think it's maybe Andrea will chime in.
Okay.
Ebenezer, something with Ebenezer. I think they're Saturday.
Okay, that's cool. Well, you know what? You guys can all find out if you go to the Facebook page for.
Go to the Facebook page or the if you go to the web page, it'll show you everything. And if you go to the Facebook page and you want to get on the show, you'll talk to Andrea.
Okay.
And she'll send you the paperwork and whatever it needs to be. But you know, I love it. I love all the bands and I love what we got, you know, and there's no musician that's not good to me. Yeah. And you know, whether you're a pro musician or a starter, you know, and I've seen people make fun of musicians. Oh, they can't sing. You know what? They're up there.
Yep.
You know, and I love it. I love it.
It's all the arts, right?
Yep.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, buddy, I really do. I appreciate everything. You guys that are watching, I appreciate you being here. If you've not yet subscribed, you better do so now. Hit the link down in the YouTube channel, subscribe, and I'll be back here tomorrow with Adrian Ost. I'm getting my first COVID shot tomorrow, and then I got some other medical stuff. So hopefully I can still, you know, function. Yeah, man, lots of good stuff. Brian Harris, another amazing musician on Thursday, keyboardist. Like do you remember Headpins? Do you remember that band from the 80s? Headpins. Darby Mills was the singer.
No,
my God. She was huge in Canada. She should have been bigger here. She was Canada's Joan Jett. She's on my show next Tuesday. And
I was back when Zebra and you know.
Oh yes,
I mean,
Zebra was Long Island band. I loved them. Yeah.
I filled in for Guy Gelso a couple of times. But
did you? Oh my God.
Guy Gelso. I took lessons from Guy Gelso. He's awesome. You know,
wow.
Steve Smith's from Journey.
Yeah.
But you know, but then, like I said, I got more into the audio and the producing and stuff like that. But
man,
yeah,
that's good stuff.
But I appreciate you, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, I don't, you know, I know now you can't see me, and that's even better.
No, but Chasing Ebenezer is the band you were thinking.
Chasing Ebenezer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Sorry, guys.
Hey, man, I thank you so much. And folks, go ahead and subscribe. And come back here again tomorrow, Adrian Ost, and you can see the after effects of my COVID shot. All right.
A punch in the arm.
Thank you, guys.